On the 1st of April 2026, the Lazarus Group drained $285 million from Drift Protocol on Solana in approximately 12 minutes. 17 days later, the same North Korean apparatus drained $292 million worth of RS-ETH from Kelp DAO. And sandwiched between those two catastrophes, the Ethereum Foundation published a single recap that should terrify every participant in this industry. A 6-month investigation called the Ketman project had identified roughly 100 suspected North Korean IT workers actively embedded across 53 separate Web3 companies as documented contributors. Not hackers sniffing around looking for a way in when no one's looking. No, these are operatives reporting for work, attending stand-ups, writing production code, posting edgy GIFs in company Slack channels, depositing real capital, and patiently waiting for the moment that they could pull the rug out from under everyone's nose. My name is Lewis, and you're watching The Coin Bureau. For most of the last decade, the standard mental picture of a crypto hack was a faceless adversary on the outside of a protocol probing smart contract code for a flaw, finding one, exploiting it in a single transaction, and then sending the stolen funds to a mixer to clean them. That is no longer accurate. The ETH Rangers program, run as a partnership between the Ethereum Foundation, Securium, the Red Guild, and the Security Alliance, has spent the better part of the last year pulling on a single thread, and the Ketman project sub-investigation pulled out something genuinely unprecedented. Approximately 100 fabricated identities sitting inside 53 separate organizations, all displaying the same operational fingerprints. Reused GitHub handles, near identical resume templates, communication patterns timed to mask the North Korean time zone, and salary payments routed through a small constellation of intermediary platforms that the Foundation specifically named in its supporting documentation. The Foundation's own framing was that this requires, in their words, a decentralized defense for a decentralized network, and that the infiltration is, again in their words, an ongoing threat requiring active detection infrastructure. Put simply, the people building the financial system you depend on may not be who their commit histories claim they are. And a parallel investigation by ZachXBT only sharpens the picture, because Zach independently exposed a separate cluster of approximately 390 DPRK-linked accounts, pulling in around $1 million per month from legitimate developer roles across the industry. Chainalysis has now confirmed a clear link between this IT worker program and the elite hackers working for North Korea. The IT workers provide the insider access. Then the hackers convert that access into 9-figure drains. Which brings us directly to the playbook that produced the Drift Protocol catastrophe on the 1st of April. Beginning in the autumn of 2025, a group of operatives attributed by Elliptic and TRM Labs to the Lazarus Group, North Korea's state-sponsored hacking collective, began posing as members of a legitimate quantitative trading firm. They did not approach Drift over Telegram or try to get them to download a dodgy Zoom link. They built a public footprint, attended international crypto conferences in person, and over the course of several months, deposited more than $1 million of real capital into the protocol they were preparing to destroy. They cultivated genuine working relationships with Drift contributors over months of sustained communication, before pivoting to the technical phase of the operation. The technical compromise itself came through malicious code repositories and a fake test flight application that exploited vulnerabilities in VS Code and Cursor, the two development environments used by the overwhelmingly majority of contributors on the Solana ecosystem. Once inside the developer machine, the attackers social engineered 2 members of Drift's Security Council, a 2 of 5 multisig, with no time lock attached, into signing what looked like a routine administrative transaction. Spoiler, those transactions were not routine. They were durable nonce authorizations, exploiting a Solana feature that allows transactions to be pre-signed and stored indefinitely, ready to be triggered at any future moment of the attacker's choosing. On-chain evidence shows the staging began between the 10th and the 11th of March, when funds were withdrawn from Tornado Cash to finance the attack infrastructure. Between the 23rd and the 30th of March, 4 durable nonce accounts were created. And on the 1st of April, those pre-signed transactions were triggered. The entire vault structure was drained in approximately 12 minutes, and roughly $232 million of USDC was bridged from Solana to Ethereum through Circle's cross-chain transfer protocol over the next 6 hours. TRM Labs put it bluntly in their post-mortem. The critical vulnerability was not a smart contract bug. It was a combination of social engineering multi-sig signers into pre-signing hidden authorizations and a zero time lock security council migration that eliminated the protocol's last line of defense. Then, a mere 17 days later, the same group of hackers, this time explicitly attributed by Layer 0 Labs to the Trader subunit, executed an entirely different attack against Kelp DAO using an entirely different vector. Roughly 10 hours before execution, the attackers funded 6 operational wallets through Tornado Cash. They then identified 2 RPC nodes that Layer 0's decentralized verifier network was relying on, replaced the software binaries on those nodes with malicious versions, and simultaneously launched a distributed denial of service attack against the remaining honest nodes to force the system to fail over into the poisoned ones. With the verification layer compromised, they called the LZ receive function with a forged cross-chain message. The bridge accepted it as legitimate, and 116,500 RSETH were released into the attacker's wallet without a single corresponding burn on the source chain. Layer 0's preliminary attribution was unambiguous. Highly sophisticated state actor like North Korea's Lazarus Group, more specifically Trader. 2 completely different attack vectors, 2 completely different protocols, 2 completely different chains, 1 single state-sponsored apparatus. And this is precisely where the financial reality starts to bite, because the combined take from those 2 operations alone, executed inside an 18-day window, comes to approximately $577 million. To put that figure in any kind of context, the entirety of confirmed North Korean crypto theft for 2025 was estimated by Chainalysis at roughly $2 billion across the full year, including the landmark $1.5 billion Bybit exploit in February of that year. What we are watching in April of 2026 is therefore not a continuation of the trend, but a measurable acceleration by a state actor that is now managing to steal in 18 days what previously required a whole quarter. And the destination of that extracted capital is what makes all of this so damn scary. The United Nations panel of experts has directly linked North Korean crypto theft to funding of the regime's ballistic missile program, with estimates suggesting that cybercrime proceeds account for as much as 45% of that program's total budget. Every dollar drained from a DeFi vault in this cycle is therefore not merely a loss to the depositors of that protocol. It is, in measurable terms, a contribution to the most aggressively sanctioned weapons program on the planet. And the laundering pipeline that converts that drained value into spendable hard currency is now industrialized. Tornado Cash for the staging capital and the post-exploit obfuscation, native bridges like Circle's CCTP for the cross-chain movement, lending markets like Aave and Compound, and Euler for the conversion of stolen illiquid collateral into clean liquid borrowing, and protocols like Thorchain, Umbra, and Chainflip for the final dispersal across Bitcoin and other chains. Okay, now, before we dig into the most uncomfortable questions this entire situation raises, quick interlude, because I do think that you're going to want to know this as well. The Coin Bureau Telegram channel is where we share breaking exploit alerts, post-mortem deep dives, and the on-chain analysis that we are tracking in real time. So you're not finding about a $292 million drain 6 hours after it happened from a panicked Twitter thread. To join, just tap the link in the description below or scan the QR code currently displayed on your screen. Okay, now back to it. Now, you might assume that the Ethereum Foundation's identification of 100 operatives across 53 organizations is, however unsettling, at least a contained problem that the industry can now triage and resolve. That assumption, though, completely ignores the fact that the 100 operatives identified by the Ketman project are, by definitions, only the ones who got caught. The investigative methodology relied on detecting reused identity fingerprints across multiple hiring applications. operatives sophisticated enough to maintain unique identities across each placement would not have surfaced. ZachXBT's parallel findings of 390 separate accounts pulling in roughly $1 million per month suggest that the true population sitting inside the broader Web3 ecosystem is materially larger than the foundation's number alone applies. And any open source protocol on the planet is, by design, vulnerable to exactly this attack surface. A pseudo-anonymous GitHub contributor with 18 months of clean commits, who has appeared at 2 industry conferences, who has participated constructively in governance forums, and who has been awarded multi-sig signing rights through normal community process, is functionally indistinguishable from a trader-trader operative executing the exact same playbook. The threat is not in the code that the contributor writes, but in the privileged access that legitimate contributor status confers. And this is the point at which the entire thesis of permissionless software development collides head-on with the reality of state-sponsored intelligence work. Because the defining property of crypto, the property that justifies the entire ecosystem's existence, is that anyone, anywhere can contribute to a protocol without asking permission. That property is also the precise attack surface that North Korea has spent the last several years industrializing. You might assume that better security audits would solve this problem, but that assumption completely ignores the fact that the operatives are the auditors. You might assume that more rigorous code review would solve this problem, but that completely ignores that the operatives are writing audit-passing code on purpose, because the payload is not in the code, it is in the eventual signing authority. And this is precisely why the Arbitrum Security Council's intervention on the 20th of April represents such an important moment for the industry. Following the Kelp DAO drain, the Arbitrum Security Council executed an emergency freeze of 30,766 ETH, worth approximately $71 million, that had been routed onto Arbitrum 1 by the exploiter. The funds were moved to a protocol-controlled intermediary address, locked and made unmovable except through future Arbitrum DAO governance action. Critics inside the ecosystem immediately labeled this decentralization theater, pointing out that a small group of council members had unilaterally seized funds from a wallet without due process. Supporters argued that the alternative, allowing the largest sanctioned cyber unit on the planet to walk away with another $71 million for the missile program, was structurally indefensible. Both sides are correct, and that is the fracture this industry now has to confront, because the proposed mitigations are individually coherent and collectively devastating. Mandatory KYC for protocol contributors closes the North Korean attack surface, and it simultaneously closes the pseudo-anonymity ethos that defined the founding generation of crypto builders. Multi-jurisdictional governance signers closes the operational latitude trader-trader exploits, and it simultaneously concentrates power in the hands of whichever jurisdictions are willing to verify the signers. Mandatory time locks on critical contract changes would have probably prevented the drift drain, but would simultaneously remove the ability of any protocol to respond to a genuine emergency in real time. Multi-verifier bridge configurations would have likely prevented the Kelp drain, and were already documented in Layer 0's own materials, but Kelp ignored them because they added operational friction. Every defensive measure that closes the North Korean attack surface simultaneously closes the permissionless decentralization that justified the ecosystem's existence in the first place. This is not a problem the industry can audit its way out of. So, the Ethereum Foundation's identification of 100 North Korean IT workers embedded across 53 crypto projects is not a discrete security incident that can be patched and forgotten. It is the public acknowledgement that a multi-year intelligence operations campaign has produced approximately $577 million in losses across just the first 18 days of April 2026 alone, and that the operatives behind those losses are not standing on the outside of these protocols looking in. They are sitting inside the building, holding badges, contributing code, attending the all hands, and earning the trust required to eventually drain the treasuries. Every open source contribution model in DeFi is now compromised by a single unanswerable question. Who is actually behind that contributor address? So the Lazarus Group did not break the cryptography. They broke the trust model. Now the industry has to figure out how to repair it, while simultaneously staying true to some of crypto's fundamental values. Good luck with that. But what do you think? Can the crypto industry get its house in order? Or is the next DeFi exploit just around the corner? Let me know your assessment in the comments below. And if you want to understand exactly how the Drift protocol and Kelp DAO exploits set the stage for what just happened at the Ethereum Foundation, well, you should check out our deep dive video on that right over here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you again very soon. This is Lewis, signing off.